Please welcome.
All right, welcome to another episode of the MCW Cast. I am Tara, joined tonight with...
I'm Brent Taring. You were looking at me like you weren't sure if you wanted me to kick it off or this is your house. And
MCW promoter Dan McDevitt, and we are just kind of like interchangeable parts here. All except Tara.
All except me. Right?
All except Tara here on the MCW Cast.
Yeah.
I'm not
Larry's,
giving up my seat. This is where I sit.
Right. Me and Larry are interchangeable with Brent
and Brian.
And Brian, yeah.
yeah, it's you get the call to do, I like having as much mic time as humanly possible. And I do the broadcasting here with Deacon Storm, Brian Gamble, whatever, at our MCW shows. But I'm also doing the NWA Empower show with Mickey James. So I got to stay limber, man. I got to stay loose. I got to stay lucid. I got to stay good on this mic. So wherever there's a hot
what's the
mic,
date on that Empower?
August 28th. Saturday, August 28th on Fight TV and in St. Louis, Missouri.
So coming up in a couple weeks.
Are you
going to be doing commentary on that?
Yep.
Live?
Yep.
Great.
So it's all women's show, which seems to be the flavor right now, but women's wrestling is doing really well, and it's as Mickey James is the executive producer. So
and she's pumped, man. I've talking with her a couple times. It's good. It's good to see her. She's really pumped up. I mean, she's really excited about it.
Yeah. I can't think of a better person to lead this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
It's a situation, and we don't talk about it much here, I'm sure, but it's a situation where you're kind of, when you're with WWE or a company that is especially corporate like that, I don't want to say your wings are clipped, but there's definitely a lane which you must stay in, and any kind of veering out of it, slightly left, slightly right, it's not going to get you any garner any favors.
Right.
So here's Mickey, who was approaching creative and management, saying, why not an all-female brand? Why not an all-female show? Which seems like a no-brainer, but the difference is, wrestling's always, and this is a little forward thinking. Terry, you may be like, hell yeah, go for it. But wrestling's always been, for the most part, through whether it's the writing of it or booking angles, for the most part through the perspective of a man. And this is an all-women show being run by a woman. And that's not revolutionary by any means, but it is in the minority, and it is. When you have, especially someone who knows what they're doing, who's drawing money and things like that, it's going to be pretty interesting. So I'm excited. I'm honored to be a part of it. But back to the point here, it's good to be on a mic. So,
well, we always enjoy having you. So
Thank
I'm happy
you.
anytime I see you on the lineup. So thank you for coming. So you can catch all of our episodes on all of the major podcast platforms, which you all should know the list by now, right? Apple Podcasts, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Radio Public, and CastBox.
Twitch? Did you say Twitch?
I didn't say that. You can watch the video format there. This was just
Twitch,
the audio part.
Facebook,
So,
and YouTube streaming.
Exactly,
Make sure you
exactly.
share the streams too and like them. And if you're watching on those podcast platforms, please subscribe, because that's how you really kind of get your algorithm up on the podcast world, is to make sure you subscribe.
And also, we have a YouTube channel as well. I believe we have, obviously we have a Facebook. So anytime you can go and click the like or subscribe, you're supporting not only wrestling and independent wrestling, but you're supporting MCW. And we need it. It's been a rough year, but we are coming out and landing on our feet, as we know. Resurrections in the books, and I was just stoked that there were human beings making noise in the crowd, and they had paid their hard-earned money finally after being shut indoors for a year and a half, deprived of MCW and pro wrestling. they finally showed up and showed out, and it was a hell of a crowd and a hell of a show.
Yeah, it was great to hear live people again. I have to be honest. It was really great to hear them and see everybody. You know, we've got some loyal fans who have been coming to our shows for 20 plus years, and it was really great to interact with them again and see them sitting in their regular seats. And it felt like all was right with the world. You know,
Yeah.
when you peek your head out through the curtain and you see your people in the regular spots, you're like, as it should be.
Yep, it's kind of funny. Like, I remember not that long ago, you would, get caught complaining about a lighthouse. Like, oh man, there were only 30 people there. Now, oh my God, give me 10 people.
Right,
Give us 10 people. Give us any, So I don't. If anything, if there's any silver lining to the experience, it's a lot of times in moments of adversity, we figure out what we take for granted and try not to take it for granted. And as far as pro wrestling, one of the, if not the most important element was missing, and that was the audience. So,
Yeah,
live.
It was after doing this for so many decades, it was like surreal with the people being here, which was weird in its own way that it had to feel like that. It just should have felt normal, but it was almost like looking out there when we got there and the people were in the doors, looked out like, oh, I can't believe this is happening.
It's happening again.
You know what I mean? This is happening because it had gotten it. There was a point where I wondered when, 3 or 4 months ago, is this going to happen again?
Yeah.
Like, and where I'd started to feel like, are we ever going to be able to have another show in front of people again?
Is this reality now?
Yeah,
is this my life now?
I was pinching myself during Resurrection a couple times, like, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Like, and it's so crazy because, 300 or 400 shows I had probably done in the last couple decades. So to kind of be at a point where I'm like, oh my,
Yeah.
like it was just something normal that it was like, yeah. So it was good.
It's kind of, there's no getting used to wrestling without people. And I feel like if somebody just hopped on board and became a wrestling fan during that tough time, you God dang, man, you really, like, how do you know if there's not people there, an audience there, how do you know what's working?
Well, that's my whole thing with it. And so for a year of the pandemic, the first year, it wasn't until the previous couple months before we started running shows where I was trying to get back in wrestling mode, I couldn't even watch it. I couldn't even watch the first time I didn't watch WrestleMania in all my life. And all 47 years was that first WrestleMania with no people because I couldn't watch it. But that was my thought too. I felt like, how do you know? How do you know who's over? How do you know? Like, it's kind of like, because then you give the promotion, whether it's WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, or whatever, like you give, like they're going to tell you who's over.
You give them all the power.
You give them all the power.
They piped in the applause. I mean,
that's what I mean.
That's
so
how
you
were
can't,
supposed to know.
It's like a false positive.
What made wrestling for me was the reaction of, they're a guy that's like Zack Ryder that's not supposed to be over, but he gets over.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what makes wrestling. When people say, no, we don't care if you're beating this guy, like we like him.
This is our guy.
And this is our guy, and we're getting behind him. And with that aspect of wrestling taken away, to me, that was everything.
Yeah.
And you get the pure, honest reaction. So we've brought in some new faces on that last show. We brought back a returning, quickly becoming a fan favorite with Ray Lynn, the cute, bubbly Ray Lynn. You got the audience's real reaction, like that's just something you can't pipe in,
Right.
We had Sam Adonis, we had Shane Taylor, when you send those people out there, they are feeding off that live energy, and there's no amount of piping in you can do for that. It's such an organic
how many
experience.
people, even us being an independent promotion, I mean, could sit here and start rattling them off, like people that got over on their own that maybe we didn't creatively, the plans weren't there, but then we're like, wait a minute.
This is working.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, listen to this. Listen to how they're reacting for this guy or this girl, or like, wow, like they're, and then the plans change because the people are telling you, hey, we like this person.
Right.
Like, and with that, for me, that is wrestling. Wrestling as much, and I'd always remember coming up and a lot of these veterans, the older veterans when I was coming up in wrestling, and they'd say, the whole thing is like, yeah, you don't let the fans dictate the match to you. And to a degree, I understood it, but also I think if nothing else, COVID, you saw, well, you know what? That's not necessarily true.
Right.
Because without the people, to me, it's not wrestling.
It's not.
It's
Look,
not pro
it's some
wrestling without
weird
the people.
It's
It's
weird.
weird. Yeah.
It's kind of, it takes the authenticity out, and it also, the biggest complaint I think a lot of people have about WWE right now is it's overproduced.
Yeah.
You're overproducing the guys. Take the people out, and there's no.
You're shooting a
room.
movie.
Yeah, you're shooting a movie. There's no
The
room
theatrical
for improv.
matches. Yeah, we saw that all last year. The theatrical matches that were coming out, which were
Hit or
entertaining,
miss.
but
Hit
it
or
was, yeah,
miss.
they were 100% hit or miss. Some were really good and some were like, oh, what I just watched. But, that was something that, was, it kind of felt like it pulled from a little bit of Lucha Underground, like that telenovela feel to it, but
Yeah.
also it was still not like a regular live wrestling match. Like especially when they were doing it on their major pay-per-views, like it just was different. It was just something else, it wasn't the same experience.
I'm trying to think of a good comparison, but it's like, I don't know. Virtual reality, it's just not the real thing. So, thankfully that's, in the past, and Resurrection was a success.
And it's
Speaking
on
of-
the Bruiser show.
Yeah, speaking of in the past, another place where you can check out our shows with live audiences, including our upcoming guests that we are featuring tonight. But you can go to our YouTube channel and check out our Flashback Friday, and we've got a lot of vintage stuff from the vault there. So we go way back, so you can catch some classic ones. And
Also,
Yep.
www.mcwragetv.com
that's right.
to watch the shows as a whole.
Yeah.
First 30 days are free, and then it's
That's
$4.99
right.
a month.
Resurrection will be up there, and you can check that out.
It was a great show. And then the breakthrough shows are on Facebook as well.
Yeah, where it looks like we're going to be continuing to do them monthly.
Very cool.
Probably once a month to just kind of keep people in line with everything that's going on at the shows and showcase some of our up and coming younger talent.
Yeah, I mean, we know there's a lot of content out there, but we thank you guys for supporting us and keeping us one of the best
And the
wrestling
people,
companies
the
out
people
there.
that watched it spoke. I mean, we got a lot of positive feedback from the people that watched the breakthrough shows. A lot of them, we picked up people from around the world.
Yeah.
I saw, see tons of comments of people, watching and, hey, I never, but you know how the algorithms work. People start watching it. It gets shared around.
Right.
It starts, people that are watching wrestling on YouTube, that starts popping up in their feed. And then also our regulars were like, hey, please keep this content coming after the live shows. So we're going to produce it monthly.
Very cool.
Great.
Very cool.
Speaking of being around the world, see, I'm good at these segue
Yeah,
things.
that's good.
Our guest tonight has been around the world, and I am talking about none other than former MCW Rage TV champion, tag team champion. He is the bluesman Kelly Bell. So stay with us, and we will be right back with our guest tonight.
We hope you're enjoying this week's episode of the MCW Cast. At MCW Pro Wrestling, much like many small businesses throughout the country, the pandemic has presented many challenges. For a company like ours that hosts events with live audiences, the impact has been even more severe, and all of our forms of revenue have been cut off. In order to continue to engage with our fans on a regular basis, we made the decision to begin to produce the MCW Cast, and are providing it for absolutely no cost on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, and SoundCloud. If you'd like to support us during these challenging times, you can do so in several ways. The most popular way is to buy us a coffee to help fuel the cast. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast, and for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee, or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and receive several special perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. You can also contribute directly on Cash App, MCW Wrestling, or on Venmo, MCW-Wrestling. You can also show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast to pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Also, don't forget to comment in the threads on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch to get your questions answered on a future episode. And you can also send us a tweet using the hashtag AskMCWCast. Thank you for your support, and now, back to the show.
All right, welcome back to episode 30. We've made it. We've made it of the MCW Cast. We are joined by our esteemed guest, Baltimore legend, music superstar, and a former champion here in MCW
Rage
Pro.
TV and tag team champion.
We
And
did
an
your
incredibly large appendage.
an incredibly large. I don't have confirmation.
I am white from the wallet up and black from the waist down, baby.
Mr. Kelly Bell. How you doing, Kelly?
I'm doing good, man. It's good. It's like being home, being here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's like just walking into the room and, hearing the crash of the mat and hearing students look, gingerly over their shoulder, hoping that the teacher isn't really looking because they're trying not to puke in the trash can that's close to the ring. Little things like that. They bring back wonderful memories.
You get the mouth dry. You try to cut the.
It make me want to jump in the ring and just throw somebody the hell out.
Throw somebody down.
I was gonna say it's probably nice to hear the crashing of the mat, and your body's not the.
I'm not the one
making that noise.
Right. I'm
making
not
that
the one
crashing
doing
sound.
that.
That's what I enjoy the most about walking into school all the time.
Well,
that
you
it's
and I
not
have
me,
had this conversation about.
that it's not me.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
It's not my body making that crash.
Do you remember us? I remember, and I'm sorry if I don't mean to jump the format here, but we did a fans bring the weapons match
At Fort Meade.
and at Fort Meade,
Wow,
Fort Meade
because
was
I remember
hot.
because somebody gave somebody a
Did I
a
wrestle
frying
you?
pan. Yes.
Yeah.
Fort Meade
Yeah.
was lit, boy. It was.
The CTE is started to set in on me. I don't.
I like the fact that
That's been happening a lot lately. We've been talking about matches on these last episodes, and I'm like, I don't even. They're like, yeah, you remember that match? I'm like, no, I don't.
I say that every time we're
I don't.
talking about stuff.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
for you, it's not CTE. It's,
No, it is.
No, it's Northern Lights. Let's be
Oh,
realistic.
okay. Well, it's a
Anyway,
combination.
come on. Like, I wrote a song called Homegrown. Don't play with me.
All right.
But look, I just thinking about how we got so pumped up. I mean, we would go out there and just do really awful things to each other, all in the name of entertainment. And now we sit around and laugh about it and go, what in God's name were we thinking?
Yeah, you know what? To flash back, I guess, to even a couple weeks ago, what I saw, like, that's passion. Like Nick Gage versus Chris Jericho on AEW Dynamite.
Right.
You kind of got to give it up, but that's that passion. Like Chris Jericho does not have to roll around in glass.
No.
I mean, he's a guy
Yes,
that
he
always,
cares about his
that's
stuff.
passion. He's
Yeah,
a
cares about his
multi-millionaire,
Yeah.
probably up
Have
there.
you seen his house?
He's on the GOAT, I
Yeah.
think a guy like Chris Jericho reinvented himself so much is definitely in the conversation of GOAT when it comes to wrestling. So, like, I went back and watched that, and you people had different opinions, but, like, man, that's just, like, passion and love, because he didn't have to do that.
No,
You
not
know
at
what
all.
I mean? No,
And he doesn't have to put anybody over if he doesn't want to. either.
Right.
And he does.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
So to give some context, Fort Meade obviously is the Army fort in Maryland.
I
And
called it "Do What You Want to Do" night.
Do what you want to do because there is no state athletic commission.
Nobody
at the
to
fort.
tell us how
yeah,
we could do.
yeah. So that's
Right.
to further context,
Yes.
right? The way it works, and anybody that knows wrestling in Maryland has an athletic commission that's one of the strictest in the country. But Army bases are like little islands
Yeah.
throughout the state
And we took full advantage.
Full
of it.
advantage.
Oh, yeah.
because they're federal property, so they
Right.
don't have
Right.
to follow federal rules. So we went through a period in MCW of a couple years where we were doing shows at Fort Meade, and we didn't have to follow any state athletic
Anybody's
commission
rules.
guidelines.
Right.
And we
Yeah.
did it.
It
We
was-
got to have intergender matches.
Yes.
You and I were tag team partners.
That's right.
Yep.
those
So-
were packed houses. They were
Yeah.
rowdy.
And the
bullets-
people knew
yeah.
that. We were able to
Mhm.
explain that to the people, just like, this is it, and people knew, like,
Right.
oh, well,
Oh, yeah, they
we're going
came
to
out
Fort
the
Meade.
woodwork.
We're
They
gonna
sure
get
did.
Right.
we're gonna get something you're not gonna get.
People
I
still
know.
to this day send us messages. When are you going back to Fort Meade?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
really. I mean, the world's a different place. You know.
Since we are here with that, I have said it on the radio. I've said it from stage, and I have talked about it in the 32 countries I've been in the last couple of years. I owe you a thank you, and then I've thanked you privately, but I need to thank you publicly because, a dream and a fantasy are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is how I became a wrestler in the first place. So Danny and Mark were fans of the Kelly Bell Band. I'm a huge mark for wrestling, always have been my entire life. So we started trading tickets to shows. They could come to my show, I come to their show. I'm standing backstage at Michael's one day, and I'm peering through the curtain because I'm a mark. I got no business being backstage,
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking out, and I look back to Danny, and I go, man, I always dreamed of doing this. And, of course, Shark is like, cha-ching!
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like his name sells tickets. He's in there.
Yeah.
And I never, it was something that a dream and a fantasy. I fantasized about being, Don Morocco and waiting for Jimmy Snooker to jump off the top of the fence in the backyard and land on top of me and make sure I didn't hurt my friend Kaylee when he did it.
So you weren't doing the jumping. You were taking.
Are you out showing? What is wrong with him? I mean, besides the obvious.
How long do you got?
What is wrong? Right, I ain't got that kind of time. Send me a memo or something. Would you give me the Cliff Notes? You're the only one I need a Cliff Note medical report from.
So easy answer, no.
Right. So no, I just really wanted to say thank you, man, because what you turned a fantasy into a dream, because a dream is something you work your ass off for.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to do that. See, I wasn't out here. I didn't have to clean the bathroom. I wasn't sweeping. And don't get me wrong, I know a lot of the boys had issues with that too, but I didn't really care, and neither did he, because he said, wait a minute, how many people you setting the ring up? He's bringing people through the door.
Boom.
From the first show.
Boom.
So,
and
but the one thing I didn't want to do is I didn't want to be the guy that come in and be the celebrity, throw 2 clotheslines, and then, have somebody that's here all the time working their tail off, put you over, and then you don't show up again for another 5 years. I didn't want to be that.
And
And
you
the people
weren't that.
see-
So
Yeah.
I came
did.
in here and got in the ring, and Axel and RJ and Rich and Danny and Mark.
Yep.
And I mean, I worked with people for months before I even did a show.
You got a lot of respect
Yeah.
that way. You
Yeah.
absolutely did. We talked about when we had
And it hoit.
John Mitidakis on the podcast.
Yeah.
He did
Yeah,
the same
from
thing when
Jimmy's,
he
right.
came
Yeah.
and wanted to be a part of it. He came to training nights. He put it, he put 110% into it. And that reminded me a lot of when you came through. Because I was, obviously I was there then.
Right.
And, there was that grumbling like, oh, who does he think he is? And then you showed up and you kept showing up. And that made a
For
huge
14
difference.
years.
Right. You didn't need to clean the bathroom, damn it.
Right.
You just needed to show up.
And I'm still
So-
not cleaning the damn bathroom.
In all fairness, though, you come from showbiz. You came, in the music business.
Absolutely.
You paid your dues there.
26 years in the Kelly Bell Band.
So
Wow.
if anybody had any clue, right, and says, "Oh, he's not paying his dues," it's showbiz, right? So if you get to any sort of recognition and longevity and success in showbiz, you've paid some sort of dues.
But you always paying dues, man. I've sat
Always,
sat
right?
with
Yeah.
BB King,
Right.
God rest his soul, and the man looked at me and said, "Look, you always paying dues. You know that, right?" And I mean, this is straight from his mouth.
Wow.
Sitting backstage, and if the king can pay dues right to the end, Kelly Bell still got plenty of dues to pay. And I
sure.
think that's part of what's wrong with a lot of workers today. Period.
Yeah.
Because if you
In all industries.
workers
Right.
and guitar
Right.
players
Yeah.
and I mean it's entertainment, period. So a lot of times what we're going to be talking now, I'm going to be talking entertainment, because I think it just crosses all forms. And I was in the green room listening to you guys on the monitor, and I also heard about how you guys talking about without the crowd. Imagine being in a band.
Like, yeah, I can't.
Imagine being in a band that plays 150 shows a year to 150 to 200 shows a year, and last year was 9.
Wow. Now, did you
So,
do any of those
That
like
was huge.
I
Yeah,
was-
we
couch
did.
concerts like
Yeah.
some of the guys?
I was
Like,
going to ask you
Well-
that. You took the question out of my mouth. Did
No, I actually have a
Was it the
that's
same way
another
for
thing.
you? Like it's weird not doing it in front of people?
It's
Like-
definitely weird and a little strange coming back to it too. But especially when you feel like it's like taking on your drawers. You putting your drawers on and off. You ain't got to think about it. You can do it in the dark.
Yeah.
But when you ain't wore drawers for a year and a half, now you're something like, wait a minute, which way did these go on again?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of that, but not having an audience, doing the streams and stuff is great. We did all of that stuff. And honestly, New Year's Eve we did a stream. We got hooked up with the comedian Ron White.
Oh,
And
yeah?
he fell in love with us, so he had us. We did a show for him, and we were talking about. Of course, I'm the promo king, so I'm promoting our show for New Year's Eve on his stream, and well, he was also hammered by the time we got to the end.
Yeah.
So he was like, "You're doing New Year's Eve? How can we get on that? We want to be the sponsor of that." So he didn't realize that his manager had already worked out a New Year's Eve show where he was hosting with Viacom. So he spoke up. It got out there. Now we're on the show.
Awesome.
He loved us. We ended up headlining it, and it went to 50 million people.
wow.
So it went all around the world. The gimmick was 24 hours, every hour they went to a different time zone and rang in the New Year.
Wow.
And then at 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, they came to us.
Mm-hmm.
And
was
then
that
we
here?
played
Was that in this? Was it Maryland?
out in
area?
Frederick,
Out in
yeah,
Frederick.
out at Showtime Studios.
Okay.
So we did Showtime Sound. We did it in the studio.
Mhm.
It's, big lights, lasers, everything. I mean, it was a huge,
Yeah.
huge garage, It's like doing a music video in a Walmart. So, but full sound, everything, So, and all, cameras everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that. We go from 10 to 11, and then they go to Bahamas to ring in the New Year.
Mm-hmm.
Then they come back to us, and we were the only band. Another thing is they did a different act every hour.
Oh,
So
neat.
all around the world.
Very cool.
It
What
was
a cool
really, really
concept,
cool.
Yeah.
But we're the only band that went twice. So we went from 10 to 11, and then they went to the Bahamas, and they came back to us, and we did 11 to 12, and then they went to New York to drop the ball, and then the whole thing was
Oh,
over.
So you guys were
Wow.
main event pretty much.
We were the
and
headliner,
you went
yeah.
and you went twice. Why'd you go twice? Was it
Because I'm black. Pay attention, son. I always
Should've
go
led with
twice.
that. I should've led with that. I should have led with that.
He's gonna be my straight man. You're coming to the radio with me.
So I brought, oh my God. So I brought up the couch concerts because your first album was released under Foul Records, right? And that was Jimmy's Chicken Shack, Jimmy Haha.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
We all came up together.
So I was a huge fan of Jimmy's Chicken Shack. When I first moved to Baltimore, like I would be that girl that was up in the front row, like he'd take his shirt off. Like I can't even make
Then
this
you
up.
would just follow suit.
No,
Got you.
no.
Understand.
But I don't.
No.
My roommate had a huge crush on him. So anyway, so
On Jimmy's Chicken Shack.
right, and
Jimmy
so
of
they
the
had
Shack.
kind of taken a pause for a bit, and then they started doing the couch concerts.
Two of the
right?
guys that were in that band were in my band.
I know. So that's why I was trying to draw that in there, make that connection. And I felt like it was like, 1996 again or something, like the first couch concert that they did. Like I went and got my entertaining supplies and got myself situated. And I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And I have the music like completely cranked up. Well, my teenage son was home. I'd forgotten that he was home. And finally about like 11 o'clock, he's like, what are you doing? And I'm dancing in the living room, like by myself, just like I'm in the front row of a concert. And up until that moment, I had resisted all of these virtual entertainment things. But I was like, Jimmy's Chicken Shack. Well, it's been a minute. I
And
think I better check this out.
I'll just pipe in
And
and,
then
see
I'm
what
like
it looks
Venmoing
like.
him money, and I'm like, thank you, this was the best night. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? But I bring it up because those moments did mean something to people.
Yeah.
So it was that connecting, but in a different way. Not the live audience, but people in their homes searching for a way to physically get out of their homes, but you can't, and it worked.
Well, we did a lot of things like that. We did the virtual stuff, like I said. We did a couple of concerts on our own that were virtual. Well, for one sound company, which they did not know was going to be for them. So it was a sound, because people forget that the sound guys and light guys, those guys are hurting too.
Yeah.
We're not working, they're not working.
Exactly.
So, but I have other means, So there's a couple things that as screwed up as COVID is, I was going to say was, but with this new variant, I'm going to say is. So as screwed up as it is, there are some blessings that came out of it for me personally. The radio being one of them, which I'll get to in a second. But the playing the music part, 26 years on the road doing several thousand shows. I did not realize how strained it was because I'm getting
Right.
through the next show.
Push
You're
through.
always getting through, and it's the same thing with wrestling.
Yeah.
You're always getting through your next match, and if you never slow down and realize the damage you have done to your body, it comes at you in a
Right.
flash, and sometimes it can end your career. And I've been in that place 10 years ago where it almost ended my career, and lucky that it
That's
didn't.
right. Didn't you have some issues
Yeah.
with your
Yeah.
vocals?
Absolutely,
That's
absolutely, and almost required surgery. But Dr. Winstead, Julie Winstead, is absolutely amazing, and she saved my career, and she has many times since then. But in doing that, doing the music thing for people, it was a great way to still be able to connect. But I was able to do a lot of other things. So Edwin McCain, who was a very good friend of mine, he's you might know the song "I'll Be." It's like one of the biggest pop songs. I'll be your crying shoulder.
Yeah.
Well, Edwin and I have been friends for like years. So we did a show called Conversations with Edwin McCain and Kelly Bell. So that was one of the things that we had
Okay.
going. And it was a podcast like this, except it had nothing to do with music, which was crazy.
Yeah.
It was all about political stuff, So we were talking because
Oh, you had a lot
George
to talk
Floyd was
about.
going on. A lot was going
Yeah.
on. So, and and a lot of people don't know this about my brother Edwin, but he has adopted a son of color. So now I'm saying that out of respect to him because I said that's your black son, and he's like, look, he's adopted, so we don't really. I'm like, look at him. He looks like me. Doesn't look like you. Okay. You call him what you want. I'm just saying. I'm saying that guy who lived down the street from you in South Carolina is calling him the same thing he's calling me when I'm not looking. Okay. So,
Right.
so, you know, I'm the guy that, you know, I'm this buddy when he calls and he's got questions about, I'm not sure about this book they're reading in this class, you know? So I got to talk him down before he goes to the principal's office kicking, this is racism. You know, I'm like, I need you to black it down a little bit, white dude. All right. Just black it down a little bit. And then, so we were doing that, but we got to interview some really cool people like this cat Charles, who was the son of Martin Luther King and Andrew Young's lawyer. So he tells this story about, you know, back in the day when you could still go to the gate to meet someone. Well, he goes to the gate to meet his dad, and his dad is walking up the ramp, and Martin Luther King is on one arm, and Andrew Young is on the other arm, and he walks up to him and gives his dad a hug, and his dad, you know, he's pushing away because he's like 13, and he was embarrassed, you know.
Yeah.
So they started walking around and everything, and he felt this giant hand, he said, on his shoulder, and it pulled him back and spun him around, and it was Martin Luther King, and he got this close to him, and he said, son, don't ever be embarrassed or ashamed to show another man affection in a public place, especially when it's your daddy.
Wow.
He said from that point forward, he kissed his daddy on the mouth and told him that he loved him for the rest of his life, from 13 on. And so we had Daryl Davis, who is, I know Daryl from being an amazing piano player. Daryl was the black guy that infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan.
I love that guy's story.
So,
Wow.
and it's a great Netflix
Yeah.
documentary on Daryl. Daryl
That's
and I have been
amazing.
friends for 30 years. So
Huh.
He's
So-
done any podcast I ever see him on.
He's amazing.
I watch everything that he's ever interviewed.
right.
on.
And
I
they
love his story.
and
It's
people
amazing.
trip out because they think he's like, they waiting for Carlton to walk in the room because I'm like, Daryl is black.
Yeah.
And he did something that nobody does. You know, I mean, you don't reach out to the Klan and invite them to come and break bread with you, which is how it started. He has done that so many times that he's got 2 closets full of robes of guys who
Yeah.
walked away from the Klan,
Wow.
and by showing it, they bring him the robe. So of course, you know, knucklehead like me said, "Hey, Daryl, did you ever try one on? You ever? Come on, tell me. You can tell me the truth. We're on camera now, you know.
Right.
Come on, put on." And Daryl, and then we're zooming, of course, because it's COVID time. So Daryl looks around the room as if he's not the only one in the room, and he comes back. He goes, "Yeah, I did. He said, I put on the Grand Dragon one, just once. I only did it one time." But he did talk about the power that it felt. He's like, I could see how that could get there. He's like, there was nobody in the room but me. And just putting that robe on, I felt like, you know, like his status had come up. And there's nobody to appreciate it but him. And so things like that, we
The ritual of uniform, you know.
absolutely.
Well, being
going
able to
through it.
hide behind it, you know.
We interviewed Shammond Williams, who has several rings from the NBA because he's played with a lot of different teams, and this because I really felt like the NBA got it right during COVID when they were talking about racial issues and things like that. I think that who else did we? Oh, Pastor Terry Coffiel, she's a white pastor, she's a white Methodist pastor who was one of the first 100 people arrested when it came time to protest and get Nelson Mandela out of jail. So she's one of the first 100 people arrested at the embassy, trying to get him out. So I mean, you get to sit down and talk to these people. If I was on the road the whole time, this show would have, the show would have never happened, and I wouldn't
Right.
have had that opportunity.
Right.
Here's what's crazy: Pastor Terry Coffiel right now lives across the street from me.
Wow.
Literally now lives across
really?
the street from the
Oh,
house
my
that you
gosh.
come to. She lives right across the street from me now.
Wow.
So, I mean, my life has been absolutely crazy in regard to that. So that would have never happened. The other thing that really opened up for me was WTMD.
We're going to talk about
One of my
that, yeah.
favorite radio stations.
Yeah,
Yep.
I just wanted to ask, like, that seems, that opportunity seems like seriously like a moment in time, almost sand through the fingers, because a lot of these people that you mentioned aren't going to be around
Absolutely.
much longer. So to
Absolutely.
capture their message and their experiences now is, I mean, that's unbelievable. That's
And these stories.
right.
I mean, the stories are just up. I mean, who knows somebody black that owns Ku Klux Klan robes?
I mean, you
You
know
know?
what's amazing, and
Right.
I think his story. I love anytime. Like I
I
said,
talked to him
anytime-
last week.
I freaking love that guy. And what's amazing is about his story, Brent. If you gotta because he's done so many podcasts and different.
You should have
things
him on
now
the show.
about it. I would love to.
He might be
Is
willing to do it.
the contrast to the way, like, say, a cancel culture type, like, they try to today, like, if someone says something that's slightly racist or perceived as that, like the concept
like
is,
you did when I walked in.
the
Yes.
concept is attack that person and embarrass them and humiliate them, right? Like, that's the mindset.
Absolutely.
Where his mindset was totally different, and he dealt with really, people in the KKK, the most racist, probably, you know what I mean?
They get it right.
Yeah,
They get
right.
it right.
Murdered
They-
you.
Yeah,
They're good
They
at what-
understand it.
they're
They're
good at what
pros.
they do.
They're
pros.
good at what they do,
They're
but what he did and the amount of people he changed their views
Yes.
by befriending, like a
That's
total
like
opposite.
having somebody change their God.
His that's why, yeah.
That
I
doesn't
mean,
happen.
seriously,
That
like,
doesn't happen.
No, like you most people, like, in, say, today, you KKK Nazi, you would write them off, or people would think, write them off. There's no saving them. They're just horrible people.
But he
right?
didn't.
No, he
Yeah.
didn't.
And he still doesn't.
And he still doesn't.
Yeah.
But he changed hundreds of them. He changed their view.
He's got
Made him-
closets
that's what I mean.
full of robes.
It's an amazing
Closets.
story and just to listen to him talk. I love listening. Anytime
he's
I
not
ever see him,
scared.
yeah, not.
He's not. You would think that an organization like that would have had a hit out on him long time ago.
Oh, that's what I'd always say. I
He's
can't.
not
no,
scared.
no. They love him.
And you put that impact next to the impact that, say, somebody getting canceled has, and it doesn't
it's not
even
close.
compare.
It's not even close.
No.
It's not even close.
And I think he would attribute to and I believe this to be true myself. I think when you know what and if I'm offending anybody, because I'm going to speak about my spiritual perspective for a quick second. So sorry, yeah, just sit tight, you heathen. Hopefully you won't burst in flames. I'll come get you on Sunday and maybe learns you a little bit. It's not Austin 316.
I'm
It's
banned.
not.
I'm banned.
That's a gimmick. When you know what God's assignment is for you in life, like, a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to figure out where they belong in this world, or why we're here. I mean, you got classes that you can take on that. You can go get a degree and, and that kind of philosophical
I
ideas.
teach these classes.
Act-
Like that's
Absolutely. So, but when you know what God's assignment is for you, it makes all the trials and tribulations of the world that much easier. And I know that I've known mine since I was 17, and that is to bring joy to as many people as I possibly can in every way that I possibly can. So I've done it through wrestling, because I got people that recognize me, don't know nothing about the band. They only know me from wrestling. I got people, of course, that know me from the band. I got people now that know me from the radio, and actually they've known me from the radio from 98 Rock. So with all the other things, all of these other things, because I'm a brilliant businessman, feed each other. So when I came to MCW, it wasn't because I was coming through the door. I didn't have to clean the bathroom because I was selling tickets.
Right.
But I was selling tickets because I was on the radio at 98 Rock every month, and I'm playing a zillion shows, so you've already seen the band. But it was important to me to get here and get some work in.
Yeah.
Not just because I didn't want to hurt anybody, that was primary, but also because I wanted to be entertaining. I've been a part of the bring the celebrity in and put him over. I was here when Steve Wilco almost took that kid's head off.
when you
because-
said the two clotheslines, I almost said
Yeah.
his name out loud. I was like, oh, he's talking about
I'll
Steve.
say his name. Whatever. When we had him in there, man, and we, we're, trying to teach him a few things real quick, and
Real quick.
real quick.
Yeah.
And then we were like,
Real quick.
let's get a student in here, because I'm like, he's not hitting me.
I'm not taking that.
No,
Right,
I'm not
right.
taking that. He doesn't know what he's doing yet. So we kind of, we showed him and, and worked it through with him, and then everything
right.
was great, but I didn't want to be that. I wanted to be a worker.
All right. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about that and some other things you got going on, and also the TMD thing when we come back after the short break. So stay
Right
with
on.
us.
Show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. You can pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Visit teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. Fuel the MCW Cast by visiting buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. And for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee. Or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and get several additional perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast.
All right, we are back with our special guest, Kelly Bell.
I'm special. And she don't mean like helmet special.
Hey.
That's not
Sorry.
the appropriate terminology. But we were talking about your role and at WTMD, which for
Speaking
those,
of inappropriate.
for those in our listening audience, that is the local public radio station. It's one of my favorites.
89.7 WTMD.
It's one of my favorites. You can listen on the web.
WTMD.org. You can stream it, and we have listeners all over the world.
That's
which
how I
I didn't
usually
even
do.
know.
Because I have Sirius XM in my car, but in my house I'll put it on my computer
And just
while
stream
I'm
it. I
working.
do the same
Yeah,
thing.
because you know what's great? You never hear the same thing twice, and that's my biggest complaint about regular radio. You know,
Not on my show, you won't.
That's what's great about public radio in general is that there's less of an agenda, and you can hear like real unfiltered thing. Also, my kid at his school had a couple people who were making music and they were playing it on the air, so it was cool to hear.
And it's a nice
kids
connection
and
to the
stuff.
community too. And
For sure.
it came about in a real strange way. Again, this is another one of those blessings that came out of a crazy thing called COVID. So I'm at my house and I get a phone call from that I don't even recognize, and it turns out to be this guy Scott Mullins, who is the program director at WTMD. And so I've had a relationship with all the radio stations in the area. I mean, if I'm in your
26
town,
years.
if I'm in your town, I'm going to the radio station. A lot of times we have to do something before the show, things like that. We all know how it works. So I already had a relationship with some other folks at the station, but Scott Mullins calls me and says, "Hey man, we're thinking about trying to try some new and different things, and would you be interested in coming up and doing an hour specialty show? So I can play anything I want for an hour, obviously within reason. But I can do anything I want for an hour, and I can tape it, and no big deal." I said, "Okay, I'll think about that." And honestly, I was really getting ready to turn it down because for those who don't know, I now have 3 jobs. And one of them, and was the one I never really talk about, which is I'm a licensed certified social worker.
Oh,
And I work with kids with emotional difficulties. And I've been in the mental health business for a long, long time.
that takes a toll, does it not?
It definitely does. Beats me up more than wrestling did. So I'm on the radio, obviously job number 2, and in the Kelly Bell Band, which is all of them are full time. So anyway, so I go in and I go to record the first show. So I thought I was going to do like 3 one-hour shows. I'm like, since I'm here, I might as well knock out 3 weeks. That was the plan. But when I get there, they tell me just do one show because we want the boss to listen to it, so in case he wants you to change something stylistically or not. So I'm like, okay, fine. I do the one show. Little did I know that he was using that as my demo. He took it to the executive board, played it for them. He came back to me and said, "We'd like you to be the voice of the evening." And I'm like, I don't know what that means. He says, "Well,
A superhero?
right." I'm like, yeah, right. Do I have the cod piece like Larry
Is that
Blackman?
The lady of the evening, the lady of the
Like,
night.
where is this going, dude? This better come with a really big paycheck. He said, "We'd like you to be on the air 7 to 10, Monday through Thursday." Oh, and because Friday at 7 o'clock they go to the specialty shows because it's public radio. So they only needed me to cover Monday through Thursday, but 3 hours. So I went from 1 hour a week that I could tape
Right.
to being on the radio 12 hours a week now,
Oh man.
Monday through Thursday. I didn't have a schedule for that.
Right.
No.
So I had to work my life out to be able to do that. So I now, my drummer, John Robert Buell, we call him JRB on the band, but on the show, he's John Robert. Well, we have the same schedule because he's a manager in another establishment and a roofing company during the day. He plays drums in the Kelly Bell Band at night, and the days in between, we're on the radio together. So we got pretty much the same schedule. He doesn't make the same appearances that I have to make and stuff like that, but he does the other stuff, the normal stuff. So you get him doing this. He says to me at the beginning of June, he goes, "Hey, man, we got 4 days off." And I looked at him. I was like, "Man, don't tell me that. Don't ever look at me and tell me that we have 4 days off again, because that just makes this month like the longest month in the world, because we talking Saturdays and Sundays, you know. I mean, and I'm in a band, so we were always playing on the weekend anyway. But I'm like, I don't need to hear that. That just makes it lost. Like that's like, you know, 2:58 the day before summer break. You know, don't tell me that. He said, yeah. He let me finish my little rant. He said, I didn't mean June. I meant through September. And I went, whoa, what? Don't ever tell me that. So I haven't had a day off, dude, and I don't even know. So if I only have to work one job in a day, it's kind of like a day off for me.
So
this is not a day off.
Right. So having known and been in the music business as long as you have, and just your people skills and conversationally, and being an MC really as the leading man of the Kelly Bell Band, you control the crowd, correct?
Absolutely. I know how to make them pop. I know how to make them hate me. I know how, and I learned that. A lot of that, the hate me part, I definitely learned here at MCW.
we were hated.
Oh
we
my
were,
God!
Yeah,
I am a very special heel.
TQM was hated, and you were a part of it. I mean,
absolutely.
It was great.
Well,
Wasn't
first
it so
I was
much
the face
fun?
when I came in as a face, and y'all beat me up all the time.
We did, yeah.
Right, and then and then of course, you know, I ended up realizing that they were really
twisted your arm.
Right.
He realized the error of
they
his
guided
ways.
me.
He came over
the
to
power
our
of
side.
Cicero actually helped me.
So with the radio, was there anything like, did you knew the business, or what? When you got there, was there any like you're gonna do it your way? Like, I want this format. I want to be able to play these songs my way, or did you have to kind of fall in line with?
Well, they let me know that Don Rogers was retiring.
Okay.
So and when I went to meet with Don, and Don kind of trained me, and he was, you know, Baltimore legend. He was there 15 years, and he's actually, if I can't make the show and I need somebody to cover, Don comes back and does it for me, which is awesome. So that shows what a great guy he is. But you know, Don gave me a lot of tips and stuff like that, but he also said, you know, you've been in the entertainment business for a long time. The microphone thing, man, I got that. So I'm like, if you're going to let me up, you need me more than I need you right now. No offense. And it's no offense to the station.
Yeah.
I am happy to be part of the family and everything else. But, and I'm not going to be a jerk here because I'm sitting right here in front of my boss, but I said the same thing when they came to me.
Mm-hmm.
So when they came to me and said, so when Shark is like, would you be interested in doing some shows with us? And I was like, you got to train me. You got to buy my outfit. You got to pay for my boots. And I want to get paid every single show up front.
Yeah.
And this is how much I want to get.
It's a business, right?
Yeah.
And we all know the biggest thing is the training. That's the biggest bill.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not paying for any of that. Like, I'm like, I got to walk out of here in the black, because I'm going to walk out of here with purple and black bruises. So I can't walk out of here in the red, you know?
Right.
So you had it kind of,
and then we backed off some of that, you know, like at one point I got to the point, you know, especially we had some moments where we had some times where we were struggling. I went to Danny and to Mark, and I was like, man, don't worry about me. Like, just put me on the show. Don't worry about me.
Well,
let's get it done. Because I was part of the family, man.
And as a promoter, there's those you know, there's those transactions where you're both helping each other. You're both picking each other up, or you're both complimenting each other, or patting each other on the back, and that's how our transaction was too.
Absolutely.
You know, what some people got to understand, you always got to, you know, and like you said, you have people that maybe didn't like it, you know, but that
wasn't no maybe. They definitely didn't like it.
Hey, look,
some of them told me to my
you
face.
Just mentioned it
but I ain't
soft
either.
You mentioned it a little while ago, like Steve Wilkos, you know, people like that we're going to bring him in. But hey, at this little independent promotion in Baltimore is the only promotion where Steve from the Jerry Springer Show wrestled professionally.
Right.
And we had 1,700, with the biggest crowd we ever had at Michael's 8th Avenue, 1,700 people. They were out the door for that. You know what I mean?
Just some context, if people haven't, like, we're talking Steve Wilkos,
from the Jerry
Springer Show
Yes.
in 2000.
2001. So it was
white hot.
You know, the Jerry Springer Show was white hot.
Yeah.
You know, you know, people may only watch it on YouTube or something now in 2020, but in 2001,
it was
Right.
it was white hot.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was really before everybody figured it out, too.
Right.
Oh,
You know, everybody was still like, oh, wow, everything happening is real. No, not necessarily. Sarah Lee,
Right.
this is entertainment. You know, everything you see
There's-
on the screen is entertainment.
There's
Yeah,
an
that was
element
a
of- yeah.
humongous show for that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was because it was so many just and all the affiliates, like the local stations wanted to be there to interview him. It was crazy the amount of press that people wanted to come talk to him. And that would have been phenomenal press if he had showed up at 11 in the morning, but then he decided to change his ticket and he got there 30 minutes before
we started.
Right.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean,
We
I'm just gonna
literally were
change-
holding the gates while we were
Yeah.
trying to show him what needed to be done.
Literally, yeah.
And he, you know, and again, you know, I mean, not to take a poop on Steve, because it was great that he came, and he was a very nice guy. He was willing to do and
He's
try.
a big fan of the
anything.
show, so
yeah.
he's listening.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not worried about him being a fan of the show. I'm worried about the fact that he's a former cop and he can still find me. So that's what I'm worried about. But no, actually, we got along great, and again, that's the genius of this guy here, who trusted me to be able to be in the ring with him and do things with him and stuff like that. You know, I mean, like we had this whole Fat Blues Cafe gimmick.
Yeah.
So I would come out, and it was an interview segment. It was the one of the interview shows. And I would come out, and, you know, I did it with Ron Simmons and Tito Santana, and, you know, a lot of the big names that came through. And Danny would tell me what he wanted me to do, and he wouldn't give me a whole lot of direction. He more would tell me, this is how much time I want you to fill. Now, granted, he would have to tell me sometime, 12 minutes, Kelly. 12.
You go a little long,
Right.
baby. A
Not
little long.
16.
Little
12
long.
minutes. I'm like, okay, I got you. So, you know, so Tito would come in and Tito would say, you know, you know, and something that's this way in blues music particularly, respect is very important. So we all know in wrestling, respect behind the curtain is extremely important. It can get you killed. Back in the day, it could get you killed if you didn't have that respect. He tells a wonderful story about Taz punching him in the face when he was ribbing Axel. I remember you told me that story 100 years ago. And him and Axel were buddies. And Taz didn't care. It's like, you don't talk to no vet like that back here.
Yep.
So
because it was in front of Terry Funk and Rick Rude and Shane Douglas. Yeah.
in a scene, it's viewed as disrespectful.
Right.
So, you know, music is very much like that as well. You know, so I forgot where the hell I was going with that.
Steve Wilkos.
Steve
Wilkos.
Right. Steve Wilkos.
Or you were talking about Tito and doing your Fat Blues
Yes.
segment.
So I went up to Tito and I said, look, man, I'm gonna get some heat on you, man, and yeah, I just want you to know I'm not disrespecting you, and this is what I do. So, like, you know, they want me. I'm on the stick more than I'm in the ring. Okay, that's what and that's what people show up to see. So my T-shirt says "I heart white girls." On the back it says "especially your mom, unless she's fat." I'm saying, you know, I'm like, that's so
That's rude, Kelly.
Yeah, well, you know, it was Buzz's idea. It was Buzz Striker's idea. It wasn't my idea. No, it was my idea. Of course it was. So Buzz's only idea was how many sandwiches he could eat before the match. I hope you're listening, Buzz. Anyway.
Wow.
So I say, Tito, I'm gonna get some heat on you, man. I hope that's gonna be cool. And he was like, man, go on, get your heat, man. Get it set up for me. I was like, don't worry. You don't know me. Don't worry. I'm gonna get him good and pissed off.
Yeah.
So we go out, and I'm talking to the man. Say, hey, Buzz, what has 32 legs and 8 teeth? He's what, boss? The front row here, the MCW show right here. You know,
That
I'm
was
like,
probably accurate.
oh,
really.
gosh,
I
who
mean,
knows? And I'd walk up to this one lady, and I said, what? I said, you got the thickest glasses I've had. I feel like I'm standing at a check cashing window. I mean, just stuff like that.
Right.
And people would rush down front to be abused. So then I get on the mic and I'm saying, hey, Buzz, what does a brick and a fat white girl from Dundalk have in common? He goes, I don't know what. Just a matter of time before they both get laid by a Mexican.
Oh, wow.
And then here comes the music, and Tito comes to the curtain, and he chases me all around the building and beats the crap out of me. And that was my role, and I had no problem with that role, and it transferred to other presentations, both on the radio, and on stage. Because now I'll get on stage and we'll do 30 seconds of a Black Sabbath song, or, you know, a Pink Floyd song, or something that people, you know, something really super popular and classic that makes you want to jump. Oh, that's my song, you know. And you get up and you run down front, and I go, gotcha. We give you 30 seconds and cut it off. And that's some heel stuff right there. That's not babyface stuff. That's heel stuff right there.
I was randomly at I went to College Park for college, and I was randomly one night out at one of the 3 bars there. This is after you had started at MCW, and I saw you you were playing, you and your band, and you were doing like heel crowd work. And I'm going, and I wonder, like, was that? You said this helped you with that a little bit. But
Not only did I do that, but I brought a wrestling ring into one of my concerts.
yeah,
Well, we had at the Record Theater where we had the ring in there, and Danny set it all up so that they basically interrupted the band. We had a sold out show like 2 months before, and they showed up, and all of a sudden the lights come up in the back of the crowd, and I can't even remember everybody that was in it. You were part of it.
they shut it down. You blow a big comeback
during the most popular song, during Homegrown.
right.
So, and they interrupt that. So it couldn't have been more offensive to all of those people who paid that money. Now they are truly pissed.
Right.
And it played itself out beautifully.
So we know obviously it's a wrestling format, but we'd be remiss to not really dive into the music a little bit. And
You mean you don't want to hear how Ron Simmons punched me in the face?
okay, let's do the
I mean,
Ron
we
Simmons
can
story.
hear that
It was the same thing. Fat Blues Cafe. Fat Blues Cafe. I talked to Ron up front. I told him, my thing is to draw him in and suck him in, and then, turn heel on him in the middle of our segment.
Yeah.
And Ron knew what was going to happen, but he was supposed to, put it on me.
But it was there.
It was a little stiff.
It was there.
It was a little stiff. But how do you tell a 4-time All-American back curtain who is also a vet and probably could still rip your head off? Ron, that was a little stiff, right? Anything you want to say to me? No, you don't say that.
2 words.
No,
Thank you.
Thank you for keeping me almost safe, sir.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks for not finishing the job.
Thank you. I still have at least 7 more teeth.
Right.
I appreciate you. And that was about it. But the music, you were
The
gonna
music.
say.
I'm just curious because it's so many people grow up and want to be music, or even just nowadays just want to be famous without any sort of talent. Famous for being famous. When you were coming up, what were some of the hardest things you had to overcome to break through and really become somebody that promoters call?
Well, I think part of it, the genre in which I developed, I call it fat blues music, PHAT.
Fat blues.
Fat
Yeah.
blues music. And simply put, people ask me all the time to describe it. And it's hard to put it in a box because I didn't grow up listening to one kind of music. So if you want to define fat blues music, it would be, if you could imagine Muddy Waters wearing a Bob Marley t-shirt, riding on Black Sabbath's tour bus on the way to a Parliament Funkadelic concert, listening to a James Brown 8-track tape, humming a Run DMC song with a Nighthawks ball cap on, all in the glory of Bo Diddley with just a hint of B.B. King and a smidge of Aretha Franklin. That would be merely close to what I mean when I say fat blues music. So how do you put that in the bin in a record store? So that's been something that has probably held me back for the whole career. Also, I refused, and I've had managers that I've fired for this because I refuse to release the moniker of blues because they think it pigeonholes you. Well, the blues reminded me when I was 14 years old and I attempted to take my own life. That's right, in case you missed it, yeah. So when I tried to kill myself, the blues reminded me that none of us are alone in our walk through this world. That there's art out there. People always talking about, we're going to save the world and we're this and you're going to save the world. But if you ain't saving it for art, what are you saving it for?
Right.
So, and that includes what we do here.
Yeah.
So that includes getting in that ring. And that's why you got students out there right now that's willing to get in the ring and they'll go wrestle somewhere, anywhere, not for MCW because we're going to take care of them here, but they might go down the street someday and wrestle for peanuts just because they want to get that art form out.
The love of the craft.
You got a guy that'll go paint a fire extinguisher because nobody will pay for him to paint a canvas. So he'll paint a fire extinguisher for free.
And there's nothing wrong to go back. There's nothing wrong with the guys that do that for a long time.
Absolutely
before nothing was
not.
to do it. I did it, and that's what we talk about, that passion and all that's
Dude.
instilled. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For years, I did it for nothing. You know what I mean? Just to get those reps.
Right.
To get those reps and to be in the ring and to be able to just be in the ring and to have the the privilege to be in the ring and perform.
And that's the word. It's privilege. And the moment you take that for granted, you shouldn't get to do it anymore. Because the people that come to see you, I don't care if they pay $5, $50, or $500. And I've been in situations where people have paid all of that. And I'm saying none of that matters. It's your time that you don't get back. You don't get that. We all gonna make more money, but you don't get that time back. There's nothing you can do unless you got a DeLorean that can go 88 miles an hour. There's nothing you can do to give me my time back. So how dare you take that for granted? And I'm getting ready to say something here on this broadcast that I have never said publicly before, and that is I do not drink. He knows this. I don't drink. I did drink long back, and people think, oh, well, he must be. He's in entertainment. He's an alcoholic. He must be. No.
I was just thinking that.
I can understand that, especially given your condition, because you look drunk now. Anyway,
When I get drunk, I walk perfectly straight.
I can believe that. We should go together. Because if I ever start drinking again, I'll just give him the keys and I'll be like, "Come on, you're pulling me over?
It's not going to work." Yeah.
Come on. He drove a motorcycle to my house. No. But you're being a good sport, man. This is awesome. Yeah. I got to take you everywhere I go, and you're big enough to fit in my wallet, so that's awesome. No, but I mean that the passion that he's talking about, man, you can't replace that. You know, you don't get that time back, and you shouldn't take advantage of it. And one time I got drunk on stage. And it's because fans were feeding us shots of whiskey. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, you're having a great time.
Oh no.
And by the time we got to the third set, I was like,
No.
and
This is not what they paid to see.
no. And I thought Muddy Waters would have never. Muddy Waters put a suit on. I mean, he'd stand in 95-degree weather with a suit on outside, entertaining people, and then go back, change his clothes, smoke a joint, and eat a bunch of ice cream. He was notorious for that. But when he hit that stage, he was about his business because he didn't respect. And it wasn't just about the money and delivering the service and being on time and getting off on time and all that other stuff. It was about the folks who came to see him. He did not take that for granted. And I learned that and from a lot of these blues cats too, man. Albert Collins was a mentor of mine. He's the master of the Telecaster, a great blues man. Look him up if you don't know, Albert Collins. And Albert Collins, we were backstage one day, and I watched him. It's when I understood the show. This guy came in with his albums, and he wanted Albert to sign them, and Albert turned into Albert Collins, the showman, like that. And was the moment the guy hit the dressing room door, bop, and then he was just two friends talking again. And Albert told me the story one time. He said there was a time, and we've all been through this, where music wasn't doing that well for him. God rest his soul. And he's a carpenter by trade. So he's in this mansion, and he's painting around the chandelier. He's cutting it around the chandelier, and he's standing on this really tall ladder. And the owner comes in and goes, "Oh, my God, you're Albert Collins. You're the master of the Telecaster. Oh, get down there before you hurt your hand. Get down. And he helps him down. I got guitars. And he takes him back to his room where he has 400 guitars all around. It's just ridiculous. So just a giant room full of guitars. And he looked, this is my favorite Telecaster right here. Would you sign this for me? And they're like, so Albert, he gave the guy his time. He was very nice to him and everything. But then he was also like, I appreciate you for knowing who I am, but
don't tell anyone.
I gotta go finish what I'm doing, because that's paying my rent right now.
Right.
Yeah.
The adulation is gonna help feed my soul, but that chandelier is paying my rent, so I got to get back and get this house note paid. Well, Albert told me, you never know who you're talking to. Well, like the guy who came in. That was my lesson. You never know who you're talking to. The house that he was painting was Eric Clapton. He didn't know who Eric Clapton was.
Wow.
That's great.
Here, Eric Clapton is like, Albert Collins is like one of his guitar heroes.
He said, "Don't hurt your hands."
Don't hurt your hands.
Oh, my
Flipped
goodness.
out. It was Eric Clapton. He said, "I ain't know nothing about Cream. I ain't know nothing about." He's like, "I ain't know." He's like, I'm from the South." He's like,
Wow.
I'm a working man. Like, people know my name, but that's because I drove 300 miles to the next show.
Right.
You know, and then got back in the station wagon and slept in the back while somebody else drove 500 miles to the next show. And I did that for 40 years. He said, that's what he knew. He didn't know nothing about no Eric Clapton.
Yeah.
Wow.
But Eric Clapton was responsible for getting him back on the road, and he never had to go back to carpentry again.
Really?
Wow.
Yep. He never had to go back again. He played that guitar right till his ending days, and until cancer sucks, by the way, which we all know.
Yep.
Rest in power, RJ. So, yeah.
Wow.
Well, we
That's a neat story.
we
Yeah.
Yeah.
we
I'm
know
full of it.
we know for a fact you never get better unless you're around people
That make
better
you
than
better.
you.
That's right.
Right? That make you better. And same thing with wrestling, same thing in any facet of showbiz, music, entertainment. And speaking of entertainment, do we have to
We
Take a
gotta
break.
take a break.
take a
Yep.
break? All right, don't shoot the messenger. We'll be back with more Kelly Bell here on MCW Cast.
We hope you're enjoying this week's episode of the MCW Cast. At MCW Pro Wrestling, much like many small businesses throughout the country, the pandemic has presented many challenges. For a company like ours that hosts events with live audiences, the impact has been even more severe, and all of our forms of revenue have been cut off. In order to continue to engage with our fans on a regular basis, we made the decision to begin to produce the MCW Cast and are providing it for absolutely no cost on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, and SoundCloud. If you'd like to support us during these challenging times, you can do so in several ways. The most popular way is to buy us a coffee to help fuel the cast. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast, and for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee. Or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and receive several special perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. You can also contribute directly on Cash App, MCW Wrestling, or on Venmo, MCW-Wrestling. You can also show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast to pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Also, don't forget to comment in the threads on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch to get your questions answered on a future episode. And you can also send us a tweet using the hashtag AskMCWCast. Thank you for your support, and now, back to the show.
All right, we are back. Before we get into a little bit more of your music, something I wanted to bring up, we've talked about it a lot during the breaks, but something and you mentioned it, I wasn't sure if we were able to talk about it or if you wanted to, but you kind of mentioned it earlier, what you do for job number one, which is probably the most important job that you do, that I've always admired over the years, is your work as a social worker.
Yes, I'm a licensed certified therapist.
Yeah, and because many times in the 20 years I've known you, when
You
I'm
getting ready to
going
put
through-
yourself out there, huh?
Yeah, well, you know what? You're one of the first guys when I'm going through stuff that I've been through. You know a lot of very intimate stuff about me because of your history and your experience. I've reached out to you to say, hey, man, I need to, not talk to Kelly, my friend, but I need to talk to Kelly, the
therapist.
professional.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
And,
literally will
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
it like that too.
yeah, and you've been there for me, and we've had some lengthy conversations. You've never turned me down, so I've always just admired. I mean, I think it's just so important. You know what I mean? What you do,
And two things. One, I'm still waiting on my check.
yeah, I think I owe you for a lot of sessions.
No. Also, but it's I often in interviews people ask me what I want my legacy to be. I've been nominated for the Icon Award in Maryland for Entertainment of the Year, all that other stuff. I've been very blessed, man, and won a lot of things. But when you want to know what my legacy is, it's knowing that you can call me. That's what I want my legacy to be. I love being Rage TV champion. It was all I'm one of the first people when we got this belt done. I'm one of the first people that got to carry it around. It was fantastic.
True.
And getting to carry these, I mean, all of that is just been amazing. But that's not my legacy. That's my legacy, because he knows that if he needed me for anything, I would be there. If it's at all possible, I would be there, and it wouldn't be no questions asked. And it was because he welcomed me into his family many, many moons ago and didn't have to. I talked about it, before, about the difference between a fantasy and a dream. A fantasy is something that everybody wants to do, and a dream is something that you're willing to work your ass off for. And I did not have to work my ass off to get to the place that he brought me in. So I felt obligated to work my ass off to not embarrass him because of the opportunity that he gave me. And having that relationship and knowing that you can do that is truly what my legacy is. I want a guy that may have played guitar in my band when he's struggling with his marriage, even though he may not be in the band anymore, to call me and say, "Hey, Kelly, what do you think?" Or a friend who's starting a business, or a buddy whose mom passed away, and he's like, "Would you come honor my mother at the service? Because I don't think I can talk."
Have you ever had one of these? I mean, you've worked with so many of people you idolized. Have you ever been in a position where someone you idolized came to you?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
that?
me. Yeah. Didn't I tell you I called him a
you're
couple
not paying
times for
attention.
first
I walked right into
It was
this.
Steve, it was Steve Wilkos. Didn't you hear the love and admiration in his voice earlier? Come on, it was Steve Wilkos. Clearly, the highlight of his
that was
career.
set up perfectly.
Yeah, it was.
I had to dunk that.
Right. Thanks. Getting this $5 now. Yeah, absolutely. That's happened many times.
That's
and
pretty surreal, right?
It absolutely is, man. It's a surprise, man. And again, that comes back to what you want your legacy to be, man. And for me, it comes back to, again, knowing my assignment from the higher power. And that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. And it's not. It also speaks to the relationship that we have and who he is as a man. But he's also there's plenty of times I didn't like him.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty, especially when I wasn't supposed to like him. You know what I'm saying? And many times we really could look like we really hated each other. But no, I'm blessed, man. Yeah, I've had folks from well above me and status wise. The celebrity thing is never something I've really been used to. I think I handle it well. But I know its place.
Yeah.
Because we're all in a business where your ego can really get the best of you
Mm-hmm.
and absolutely destroy your career. And we have all seen our friends and people that we know do it. That was another reason why I stopped drinking. Again, and we had talked a little bit about that because I'm taking advantage of people's time and stuff like that. I also can't do everything that I do and do it optimally. And again, you're cheating your audience, or you're cheating your client, or you're cheating yourself. And if you want to take it one step further, you're not completing your assignment.
I mean, it jumps out at me because I saw in some of the research, like some of the people and work like Bo Diddley, like
Bo started my band.
If just people out there, I don't know much about music. Bo Diddley is one of them. It's probably
Pioneer
the most
rock and
famous,
roll.
Pioneer rock and roll. The most. It's is that not the Bo Diddley?
That's the Bo
beat?
Diddley beat. Yep.
It goes to so
Chunk,
many.
ka-chunk, 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 chunk.
I mean, the man has his own beat and the foundation rock and
That's
rock
the
and
guard
roll.
box guitars. Everybody knows that's him when they see it.
It's madness that these men and artists have come in and out of your life or stayed in, so it's pretty cool to think if you really go for something or honest and pure about your intentions with it and how much you love it and chase it, and you got some talent and you show up, like, wow.
Well, you just said something. That's half the battle right there, right? Showing up.
Showing up, yeah.
And a lot of people, and that's what they out there, beating them students half to death to see who's going to come back through the door tomorrow.
Yeah.
And they're not
Calm
dumb
down
enough.
a little bit since when you walk through Bone Breakers.
Right, yeah,
Let's
right.
clarify that. That was disclaimer. That was
But-
entirely what happened then.
Right, that was entirely what happened. But there's still an element of you got to have an element of toughness.
We
Let's
want
not.
them to prove
I
themselves.
know we want people to walk through the door and we want people to work, but we also got to be truthful. A chair is still a chair. A
Right.
table. There's no gimmick chairs. There's no gimmick tables. It's
Right.
just physics.
Well,
if
well,
you
one
hit it in
thing
the middle, it breaks.
One thing I realized, and this was always, it's always a discussion of like what, because RJ came up through that school too. Like, the reality is just doing this is way harder than people even can begin to imagine.
Just running the ropes.
I'd always say to RJ, I'd say, just let the ring weed people out, because the ring
Right.
weeds people out. You don't have to intentionally hit someone harder than you would. You just have to let them get in the ring and feel what that ring actually feels like.
I got
and
a
that'll
great
weed people
example.
out.
So back in the day at Bone Breakers, we were working out one day, and of course, we got it was one of those really hot days. The
Garage
the
door.
garage doors open.
No airflow.
No airflow. Everybody's dying. And I'm not having to run around the building again because I didn't come in. I didn't have to do that.
I'm moving tickets.
Yes. Hey, whatever. I didn't have to do
Yeah.
that. So, but I'm bumping like everybody else. I'm drilling like everybody else. So this guy comes in and he looks like an anatomy chart. He is ripped to shreds. I'd say he's probably about 240, 250, like 6 feet, blonde hair, Greek god looking.
Prototypical
Yep.
of what you would think a pro wrestler.
He killed the calisthenics. He did everything that he needed to do. Now you finally get your opportunity to get in the ring and learn how to take a back bump. Your first one. And they teach you the safest way you can possibly do it. Tuck your chin. Everybody think. He takes his bump. He rolled out the ring. Nobody ever saw him again. Nobody ever saw him.
Yeah, there was a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
A lot of those
Yeah.
guys.
We were like, where? I mean, he literally didn't say. He rolled out of the ring, grabbed his stuff off the couch, and rolled.
And there was a lot of those guys. I mean, hundreds, like over the 3 decades that I've been a trainer. What's interesting when people talk about like tough sports and then they go, "Oh, wrestling's fake," or MMA this or football.
I got 3 surgeries that said wrestling ain't fake.
Everything is tough on a different level, and pro wrestling is because we had MMA fighters that probably could have legitimately beat up most of the guys but they couldn't take the pro wrestling
Yeah, they
drill.
would
They
be
couldn't
gassed.
take they couldn't take that and the bumping in the ring and hitting and slamming their head off the mat and trying to tuck your chin and banging. Like they could do MMA or they could do football. Football players could go out and get sacked by other 300-pound guys, but get in the ring and start throwing yourself around the ring and you're slamming your head on the back of the mat. Like I can't take that. So I just think all of those MMA, there's a certain respect that you need for all of those things, whether it's playing football, MMA,
right? Because
hockey,
you may not run out.
everything's-
You may not run
yeah.
out of the wrestling ring either, and go put on a helmet and get in
Right.
on the field with Ray Lewis
Right.
either.
Right. Right.
You might have played some football,
Right.
but you ain't played with Ray Lewis.
Exactly.
You ain't get hit
Right.
by him.
100%.
He could
yeah.
change your whole day.
I
You
mean,
know.
Yeah.
Anybody that has a clue in any form of showbiz can go and watch anything, a movie, a play, a rock show, a wrestling show. And if you're in it and you have a clue, you can appreciate the dedication and the art. Anybody in the Olympics right now.
But there's
it's just
another-
like the dedication. It's crazy.
There's another piece that we haven't touched on that wrestling has that other sports don't have, and sports and entertainment don't have, and that is the ability to swallow what you believe to be your integrity.
Yeah.
Because there's a saying in wrestling that there's no integrity in wrestling. There is, but what that statement is saying is because they let people know that if it's your job to be putting somebody over today, then that's what you're supposed to be doing. If RJ can come to the ring as former MCW heavyweight champion in a diaper and a bonnet, and you better not be backstage to him and tell him what you're not going to do.
Yeah.
If I can come to the ring dressed in my Haystacks Calhoun gimmick, it's whatever the job is done, because it's not about you. You polish your skills, you do everything you can, you practice your promos, you do all of that stuff, but it's about those people and their time and coming and sitting out in that crowd. And you are going to do what makes sense for them so that they can pop, because they need it. Because as entertainers, here's why I think about my wrestling career, and I think about and being a musician as well, entertainment period. I loved being a heel because if this guy comes to the show and he brings his 4 kids and he's paying $20-$25 to get every kid in there, everybody's buying a shirt, everybody's getting popcorn and hot dogs and everything else, everybody's getting a belt, anything, everybody's pumped, and indie wrestling is so much better. No offense to any other big companies, but it's better because when somebody gets picked up and slammed, you don't have to wait for the microphone to pick it up because you're in the 3rd tier. They're already standing up and going into the next spot before you hear the bang from the last slam. That's, indie wrestling, you're standing right there. You can feel it. You can see them
They're sweating on you.
Right. You're sweating on you. You might be able to touch them when they walk by instead of having some guy in a red coat push you out of the way, That, for me, that when that guy does all of that to take his family because he hates his job. He goes to his job every single day as much as he can't stand it, but he got to feed them kids and take care of that woman and keep that house and them lights on.
They got him.
He does what he's going to do, and he comes home, and that Saturday night, he goes and brings all the kids, brings the family, buys himself an $8 beer. I call him a redneck, say something nasty about his little ratty children, all that other stuff, and wave my finger. This guy gets it. He understands what we do. But just for a moment, as the beer releases from his fingertips, as he's throwing it at me, and he realizes I just threw an $8 beer at a character.
Yeah. But it's cathartic.
But
in a
that's
way.
what he
But you
bought a
don't-
ticket for.
But you don't go see Othello and question whether that guy really thinks he's a king.
Right.
No, you allow yourself to be sucked into it because it's more fun that way. And
Yep.
when that guy's leaving here, if they're not standing outside waiting for the same guy's autograph, now they're walking to the car and his kids are putting him over. Did you see what Dad did to Kelly Bell? Yeah, he really gave it to him, didn't he? And that guy's feeling great. He goes to work on Monday and he comes home from work, pats his wife on the butt, and he, for the first time in a month, he does not kick the dog.
Yeah.
And I gave him that.
Mm-hmm.
I gave him that. And that is what we do. And if you take that for granted, you shouldn't get to do it.
Right.
You shouldn't get to do
And
it.
there's nothing else. No industries quite like that. That have that strange, hard to put it in. Again, hard. Another thing that's hard to put. It's live action, improv, athletic entertainment.
What's that saying Jeff Jarrett
Athletic
always
soap
said? What was,
opera.
what was Jeff,
It's-
Jeff
Yeah.
Jarrett saying?
For those who don't understand, no explanation will do. For those who do understand, no explanation is needed.
It's needed.
That's
Right.
it, and it's perfect. It's
And-
just like you said. It's just like when I'm in my 40s, but when I went to see Avengers a couple years ago, man, when Iron Man died, when Tony Stark died, he died.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah, you know what
Yeah.
I mean, and you know
Right.
what I mean. I obviously, you know
He
what
might
I'm
have been
saying.
sitting in the crowd, but
yeah,
he died
so
in that
I've
movie.
never, but I've
Right.
never understood that. I've given up over the years trying to explain that when non-wrestling fans they try to say, but this, and I'm like, man, that's why I always think of that Jeff Jarrett. Like, I'm not even gonna, because you're not gonna understand.
You're not
Like
gonna
I
get
could,
it.
I could explain it to you like I just did. Is hey, when I went to the movie theater,
Yeah.
Tony Stark
Right.
died, but you're still gonna go. But it's not.
Right.
No,
Right.
it's the same thing.
Right.
Right.
It's,
It's
the
all about-
It's like when
Yeah,
people
it's
say
the same
wrestling is fake. You're just looking at them, and it's like, well, then your whole life is fake. You know, like every movie you watch, every show you watch, like all of that. Like, what is your definition of fake? Because, like,
You don't say that when
we're-
Tom Cruise gets
Right.
hurt doing a stunt.
Yeah.
we're getting
say that.
we're getting an emotional reaction from you. What's fake about emotions?
Not,
Right.
Nothing.
Absolutely. And
Like,
you
that's
also
our
sit,
job.
You sit at the end of Jackie Chan's movies just to see the things that went wrong.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
so you can see, wow, he really is a tough guy. Well, you get to come see me do it.
Mm-hmm.
You get to come see. You get to be right here. You don't have you can't rewind it. You can't stop it. You don't have time to go and get popcorn. You should have got
Right.
it at the intermission.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a big part. Another part of it too, and all entertainers, and I'm lucky and blessed enough that I've been in so many different forms of entertainment, movies and commercials and all that other stuff. I've been around in a lot of different things, but people don't understand too what goes through your life as an entertainer, your personal life. So I mean, there's there's a few divorces right here at this table.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah, there.
that's
I'm saying, you know, I mean,
we've racked up a bunch of them.
yeah. I mean, we could, and most of us got the same lawyer. So
I think we all were at each other's
We're all
weddings.
at
we
Yeah,
definitely
we are.
Actually,
definitely
yeah.
all have the same therapist.
right. Yeah, indeed. So I mean, but you know, you send yourself to that, and I think that's a lot of things that people don't know. Like I wasn't at my father's funeral, and people think that even the people in my band didn't get that. And I'm like, we were playing a wedding that day, and that it was planned for. My father was in Texas, and they wanted, you know, the people that booked this wedding changed their date 3 times. And the backstory is this guy was, when he first came to see us, he was 12 years old. We were playing at Oriole Stadium, and they were coming in for opening day. We were playing the big festival. He fell in love with the band in that moment. He refused to his parents to go into the game until we were done our set. So he falls in love with the band. So then he brings his girlfriend in college. Well, sorry, first date. It's a first date. He brings her to see us. They end up falling in love. He asked her to marry him years later at one of our shows. So now it just makes sense that we should
Okay.
be playing his
Because
wedding.
now you're part of his story.
They bought 450 CDs to be the thing that they give to the parting
Right.
favor.
The swag bag.
Right.
Wow.
That's the
Yeah.
swag bag for everybody that's coming to the wedding. And they changed the date 3 times. I could not tell those people that I couldn't be there for them.
Did they
I
change
couldn't
the
do
date
it.
because working around your schedule?
Yes.
Wow.
Working
Oh,
around the
wow.
band schedule, yes. So I thought about what my father would have said. First of all, my father would have been like, fool, I'm dead. Ain't
Like,
no
what
more
are you
dead
gonna
than
do?
dead.
Right.
This is dead as I'm
gonna
going to get. My father was not the spiritual man that I am, let me just say. So he would be like, this is about as dead as dead gets, all right? So relax. You know, I'm pretty sure I'm not going nowhere. So he also would have said, fool, go ahead and make that money.
Right.
That's my dad. But for me, it was the commitment. That's like the people, that's their time. That's
Mm-hmm.
that people being out there. You can't take that for granted. So I had all the guys in my band come to me independently and as a group to try to convince me, like, man, you this going to be a regret. I said, no, it won't. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. It won't be a regret. So I wrote his eulogy. My cousin performed it for me at his service. It was great. And I went down 2 weeks later to spend the time with my stepmother. And it was right when the phone calls and the flowers stopped coming and the cards stopped coming, and then I come rolling in. It was just what she needed.
Right.
She was ready to take the pictures down.
Right.
I showed up on the day that she was talking about taking the pictures down and starting to put things up, and then we can go through some of his stuff together where she's not breaking her heart to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
And if she needed a hug, I was there to do it. So it turned out to be perfect. Everybody in my family didn't necessarily feel that way. And even now when I tell, there's probably people watching us right now that going, I would have never done anything like that. No, you're wrong. My father's tattooed on my back. He's the greatest man I ever knew. He's the most important person. Wasn't my biological father. I'm adopted. He chose to love me. And he was the kind of dude in a very bitter divorce. He could have walked to the judge and said, Your Honor, that one's not mine. That one's not mine. Just this one. So I'm paying for this one. He didn't do that. He paid for all of them. And he never told anybody. We didn't know.
Wow.
That's some grown man stuff right there. That's some grown man stuff. So how you not love a guy like that?
Right.
So even with that guy, I got to say, I can't be there for his dust because that's what it was. I got to go. His life is over. These other people's lives are starting together. So I gotta go do this. And then I got to go make my apologies. And let's just think about this. That when you meet somebody new and you really dig them and you say, oh, yeah, let's hang out. Cool. And everything hits off. So maybe the third or fourth time that she says to you, my friend Tanya is getting married this Saturday and I really need a date. And then you got to say, well, tell Tanya congratulations from me because I'm going to be in Tennessee because I have a contract from 8 months ago that says I better be there or I'm going to get sued.
Yeah.
And everyone understands that in the beginning. And when you try to tell the next one that comes along about the story of the one before and you say, yeah, people, did she know what you do?
She doesn't get you.
She not right. She understands. She know what you did before she met you? I'm like, yeah, y'all all say that until you're you're the one in the seat. And it's the third time I'm telling you I can't be there because I don't in that moment. Or if you come to a show and you go, can you come here for a minute? No, there's 200 people in line waiting to get their CDs signed. No, I can't come here right now. I'm not here to entertain you because I belong to you when we get home in the kitchen and I'm drinking hot tea to prepare my voice so I can do this all again tomorrow night. Right now, I belong to everyone in this building. And people don't get that. And rookies don't get that. Because they're there for themselves.
People that aren't involved don't get that.
Yeah, it's like that in the wrestling
to
business.
This day, I'll have people that outside of wrestling or friends or what, and I'll come to a show and they'll come to a show and they'll bring their kids, and then I'll have like 40 text messages from them, and like then they're like, oh man, I just wanted you to come out. Like we come out, like you didn't answer me, you didn't respond to me.
I'm at work.
Yeah, that show that you were that 600-700 people, like there were, like I was running that show.
Right.
That's
that was
why
me.
I couldn't come out and hang out with you in the crowd.
Right. I'm not
Like,
kidding.
you know,
Saturday,
it's
Sunday, I
crazy.
got 6 messages after our show for Resurrection. I got 6 messages by the time I woke up the next morning. Oh, I tried to say hi to you, but you looked like you were always in a hurry. Yeah, you know how much stuff was on my list to do? Like, are you kidding me?
Absolutely.
Like, I put 5 miles on from 12 o'clock until 11:30 that night, and I didn't leave this building. Like,
Wow.
What was stepwise?
Stepwise, 5
Seriously?
miles. Yeah, I do it every time, every show.
People-
By the end of the night, I'm
What
barefoot
do you use
and
to keep track? Your Apple Watch?
yeah, I'm barefoot dragging my 6-inch heels around because I've been in them for the last 12 hours. So yeah,
I like you better than 9.
well, my
People
feet don't go in those. Sorry.
people who say they don't get it or I would never do that, you're damn right you never would.
Right.
Because you'll never do what it takes to get this far
Absolutely.
in a craft that you love, and
Yep.
that's the bottom line.
Or you won't be able to humble yourself when you do get the skills. There's plenty of guys that got the skills, but the attitude is jacked.
Right. Or they're here, they're worried about their match and their match only, or their set or their music, or you know what I mean? They're tunnel vision to what they need to do or they feel they need to do, but they're not seeing like the whole big picture, you know?
And
Like,
that's why MCW is different from the other, even from the other independents, because you get somebody like Lita, who is standing at her Hall of Fame celebration, and one of the first things she says is she comes back to shout out Danny and MCW. She didn't have to do that, you know, but the family vibe and the commitment to this, you know, I fell in love with it. I could have come in here and done my celebrity thing and done my 1 or 2 shows and been gone and, you know, kept the videotape and that'd have been it. Because that's how old I am. It was videotape. I'm pretty sure somebody chiseled it. But anyway, but when in doing that, you know, I ended up being part of this family, you know, and back then just about, I don't know, 75% of the people on the roster were at my wedding when I got married.
Yeah.
And fortunately, most of them were at my party, at my divorce party. so it came full circle.
Well, speaking of divorce, I don't know if you have alimony still, but we got a new CD out,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Let's talk about
a
this
new
album.
album.
This is
nice
album
segue,
number.
Brent.
Album
You're
number
learning.
13. It's called Know My Name.
Lucky number 13. Know My Name.
Yep, lucky number 13. It's honestly, it's one. I think it's one of our best efforts, and it artistically, Know My Name. The title track is written from a child's perspective, and it's about a rough breakup of a marriage, actually. But it's written from what the kids felt like watching it,
Oh.
and also the commitment, and it's neat because it doesn't make a villain out of either parent at all. It doesn't do that at all. It just shows. 2 people sometimes have to get away from each other so they can be better parents for the kid that they created. However, that doesn't mean they understand that the kid doesn't go through stuff with it being different.
Yeah.
And that's what that song is about. And there's just a lot of reflections going on there, man. A lot of really cool stuff going on.
And that's
on
what
that CD.
separates this album from maybe the other ones.
I think there's a lot of things about all of our music, I think, that's introspective, but a lot of things are just about things that we've seen and we've met. You know, we got an album called Reincarnated, and that song itself is just about people we've met on the road and stories that they've told us. You know, just and people think, oh, well, is that about your family? No, that's not about anybody in my family. That's about the people that I've met on the road that tell me their stories. We have a song called Don't Go, and this guy comes up to me and my guitar player, and Ryan, and he says, you guys got a couple minutes? And you know how you do the same thing. When I'm at a show, I'm in the same mode. You know, I'm in Kelly Bell mode. So there's things I got to do, and you know, I know my task. So this guy, but you know, sometimes there's something in their eyes that says you got to give this guy some time. So I'm giving him some time, and he says, I just got to tell you a story. He said, I was married. You know, I was married to my wife for 37 years, and she woke up one morning and decided she didn't want to be married to me anymore. And she told me she was leaving. And within, you know, 2-3 hours, she was out the door, gone. He spent the next 2 years trying to get her back. 2 years.
Wow.
Trying to get her back while they were separated. She wasn't seeing him at all. She didn't come past the place. She wasn't meeting him for dinner. She wasn't asking him for nothing. She went out. She had her job. She went there with her life. She was like, go live your life, because I'm not trying to do it. It wasn't even necessarily about being with somebody else. She just woke up and had a midlife crisis, I guess, and decided she didn't want to be with him no more. He was brokenhearted, and he had decided that he was going to take his own life. He had made the commitment. He had the date picked out, everything. So on the night that it was happening, the one thing they had in common was the Kelly Bell Band. So they had seen zillions of shows together. He takes our song Don't Go, puts it on the CD player, calls her, puts the phone by the thing, plays it. When the song ends, he pushes end. He never said hello, never said anything. He wanted that to be the last thing he heard, that she heard, when she found out what he was getting ready to do. So he went and got his gun. He got a glass of some expensive scotch, and he sat down. And when he was done with that scotch, that was going to be the day. Doorbell rang 45 minutes later. He opens the door, and she's standing there crying with her bags in her hand.
Wow.
So he's telling me that. My mouth is about 3 feet on the floor. My guitar player's in tears. I'm starting to cry. He's crying, telling the story. His wife now walks up. She comes walking up, and she's the drunk chick at the festival. She's got the red stain to prove it, right in her white blouse. She's two-fisting it, and she's looking at us like this. And she's like, oh, hell. He told you the story, didn't he? And we were like, yeah, he did. But you can't put a price on that.
No.
Right.
You can't put a price on that. So, and that's what we do. That's not about money. That's just about talent and making a connection with people. And when you talk about forms of entertainment, wrestling is one of the biggest. I mean, it's all about making the connection with people. We all know people who have been in the business who are flat awful at it. But because they can make a connection with people, they have had longevity in their careers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I was never the best wrestler. I'm never pretending to be that. But couldn't nobody beat me on this? Couldn't nobody beat me on this?
Where can we get the new CD?
Anywhere you're streaming music, anywhere you're getting music, Apple Music. You can go to kellybellband.com or fatblues.com, PHAT. Also, if you want to check us out again at WTMD.
And that's evenings, correct?
Evenings with Kelly Bell, 897WTMD.org if you want to stream it, if you're out of the listening area and you want to check it out. We got people from Japan that are checking out the show, which is awesome.
Now, are you back to a live touring schedule again, too? Or you got some dates that we can throw out there?
I would invite them to go to our Facebook. Check us out on Facebook,
Okay.
Kelly Bell Band, or check us out, go to kellybellband.com, because I never know where I am. People ask me that question. I don't even know when I get out the bus. I don't know where I am sometimes. That's why I never go, hey, Cleveland, it's good to be here in
Right.
Seattle. I learned
This
that
is
lesson.
Columbus.
Yeah. I'm not successful. I'm not successful in the music or in entertainment period because I haven't made any mistakes. I've made all of them, just not twice.
Very cool.
So I don't even say the city anymore unless there's a poster in the back, a big banner with the city name on it.
Welcome to Cleveland.
Right, exactly. Because
That's
a lot of
what I would
bands
do,
will
too.
write it on a piece of paper and tape it to the monitor. So that's just cheap. I'm not. There's that be a better artist than that. Be more skillful than that. There's ways to talk about getting people to have a great time. I get on stage and tell people, let's party, man. I ain't had a drink in over 20 years.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you in a minute, let's do it, because this is, you're not here to be my buddy. You're here to be entertained.
Yeah.
It's my damn job.
Yep.
And it's the same thing in the ring.
Yeah.
No matter what wrestlers will do things that nobody else will do. And I've been a martial artist. I traveled on a national karate circuit for years. I did long before I became a wrestler. I was an amateur wrestler. I've done a lot of sports, but there's the craziest locker room I've ever been in is definitely a wrestling locker room.
Yeah.
It's definitely a
Yeah.
wrestling locker
Well,
room.
a true renaissance, man.
Yeah.
Kelly Bell, I mean, radio, obviously the music, pro wrestling, social work, blacksmith.
What did you just call me?
There, you're canceled.
Cobbler.
You're canceled. You're canceled, Brent.
Personal
You
psychiatrist.
just got canceled on Twitter.
Oh, my gosh. Listen, it has been a real pleasure to have you here. Fans, we want you to know our next show coming up is September 17th. We'll be doing a very, very special show.
Bruiser
I know
Strong.
this is something near and dear to your heart as well. It's the Bruiser Strong Memorial Show, so you can get tickets, MCWProWrestling.com, or our authorized ticket outlet at Hideaway Collectibles, where you can get not just MCW tickets to our upcoming shows, but if you are collecting wrestling memorabilia, sports memorabilia, you're looking for hard-to-find autographs, Funko Pops, whatever, go to hideawaycollectibles.com or stop by their store located in Pleasant Dundalk, Maryland, right down the street from Jimmy's Famous Seafood on Hollywood Avenue.
Wow, that was nice.
That
I
was-
like how you had that was real smooth. Can I just say, so I was, RJ allowed me to come to the hospital towards the end, and I saw him a few times in there, but I I love the guy. We fought.
Yeah.
We've done a lot. I remember when we first started, I just decided it was going to be a shoot. We were bone breakers, and I took him down. Oh man, he was so pissed off at me. And I wasn't because that I just said, okay, we're gonna turn this into a shoot. It was because I took him down because he just had so much pride. He was like, yeah, you ain't gonna take me down. I was fat. And I was like, yeah, but I was a wrestler too, dude. I was like, don't let the belly fool you. Man, he destroyed me after that.
Yeah.
He destroyed me. He stretched me right out right after that just because I hurt his pride. But I can't think of a time that I didn't need him and he wasn't there. Right down to I had a contractor in my house that was screwing things up my house. I'd call him sometimes. Man, is this right? Is he supposed to be doing this? And he's like, take a picture of it and send it to me. I mean, just anything. So it's an honor.
Yeah.
It's an honor, and it's awesome, and everything that MCW has done to honor the Bruiser.
Well, hopefully we'll see you on September 17th to honor him.
Dust off the
Maybe.
boots.
You know what?
I know a guy that could possibly get you booked in that Bruiser Battle Royal.
Maybe.
So
I mean,
possible.
I can tell you this: if someone can talk me back into getting in the ring again, this would be the right event to do it.
It would certainly be.
It would be the right event to do it.
It would. Yep. He would be happy with that.
Yes. I think he would too, because he would laugh at me.
No, he had so much respect
And
for
he'd
you.
call you a turd.
Right.
He enjoyed working with you. He absolutely did. He
Yeah, he dropped the belts on me,
yeah.
which I rubbed in real hard.
Oh, you did beat him and Pat for the tag belts, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the old
that's
powder
right.
gimmick.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Works
But
every
yeah.
time.
I had a lot of respect, obviously. I have a lot of respect for him too, and I know he did. I know, he and I have a very, very special relationship, because I was quite surprised when he allowed me to come to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when things got rough, and he was concerned, and he just didn't want people to see him that way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
he didn't.
yeah.
But I think it had a lot to do with my mental health background too, so he understood.
Yeah.
And
He did not want people to see him that way. I
No.
set up a Zoom call here for people to come and talk to him right toward the very end.
Yeah.
And immediately, as soon as the call hung up, my phone was blowing up. And he's like, Tara, you answer the phone. And he's leaving messages. And he's like, why'd you do that? I'm like, because you needed to do it.
Right.
And we're just leaving it at that. And because I said so, and we're doing this, and there.
I remember
And
saying,
he was hot. I mean, he was literally, it was like I could hear him yelling at me from the back. But
the second time I heard it, I walked in, put on the goddamn mask. I'm like, for a guy that's real sick, you're kind of a dick right now. I don't know why you got to be so uppity. I don't have to be here, right? And it was, and who knew that COVID was going to be knocking on the door like that? And now we all wearing masks.
Yeah.
How crazy is that? But I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to come in here and be part of this. And I would love to come back anytime you would like me to come back.
Okay.
Unless he's going to be here. Old Black Jack Mulligan. Over here. Whatever he was calling me, I don't know.
Don't worry about him. He's already
He's
canceled.
canceled.
He's canceled.
Oh, my God.
Your headphones out. You mean that you have one more thing that doesn't work?
Oh, my God.
All right.
All right. Well,
All right.
you,
And our YouTube stream just got kicked.
That's right. We're going to get all kinds of emails.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us this week.
Episode 30, right? In the
Yeah,
book.
that's right.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Kelly
See you
Bell.
guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Brett
Kelly.
and Dan. See you next week.
Peace to you.